All right, today we are talking about 4.5, writing equations of parallel and perpendicular lines. Remember, parallel lines are lines that just, if they went on forever, they would never intersect. Perpendicular lines form an L or a 90-degree angle that cross at a T, almost like if you think of a four-way stop on a side road where it's a complete L. All right, so we're going to write equations. What I told you guys in our last section is we are going to be writing, when we say write equations, they are usually going to be in this form, y equals mx plus b. So the two things we always need to know are the slope and the y-intercept. Those are the two things we need to know in order to write an equation. So we'll get back to this in a second. We're going to talk a little about the terminology here. It says the converse of a statement. So converse. We're not talking about a shoe company here. The converse of a statement changes the hypothesis and the conclusion. For example, if I said, if it is snowing outside, then it is cold. That's a true statement, right? If it is snowing, it is cold. The converse of that would be switching the snowing and cold part. So I'm just going to abbreviate. If cold, or I'm sorry, what I say? If snowing, then cold. That's true. If I flip it, if cold, then snowing. If it's cold outside, then it's snowing. Is that true? No, because it could be 0 degrees and not snowing. So it could be cold but not snowing. But so the converse is this. So I'm going to read you what it says. The converse of a statement interchanges the hypothesis and the conclusion. The converse is not necessarily true. Here's one, a math one. If two non-vertical lines have the same slope, then they are parallel. So here we go. Same slope, then parallel. So that's true. If we want to know, if we want to write two equations that are parallel lines, they have the same slope. Same slope. So let's go ahead and write this right here. It says, write an equation of a line that passes through this point, -3, -5, and is parallel to this equation.
Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, go ahead, Tysia.
On the word problems, do we do the variable?
No, you just put the number. Okay, so we want to know, write an equation that is parallel to this and has this point. So we need to know two things, right? We need to know the slope and the y-intercept. Well, we know the slope is right here, right? Because if it's parallel, it's got to have the same slope. So we know our equation that we're going to do is going to start y equals 3x. We just need to find out what this y-intercept is. So this actually goes back to things we were doing a few weeks ago. If we know the slope and we know a point, how can we find the y-intercept? So we're going to write it y equals mx plus b. Let's plug in what we know. So y is going to be, so remember this is like x1, this is like y1. So it's going to be -5 equals 3 times x, which is -3, plus b. -5 equals negative. We're just solving for b now. Add 9 to both sides. 4 equals b. So now we know that our slope has to be 3. Our y-intercept is 4. We can write our equation. Y equals 3x plus 4. Remember, if you get done, you can just work on your Play-Doh until that timer's up. Okay, so let's go ahead and do another one like that. Write an equation of a line that is parallel, that runs through the point, we'll say 4, 0, and is parallel to y equals 2x plus 5. Okay, so I'm going to write it over here. So it's going to be y equals, we know if it's parallel, it's going to have the same slope. So it's going to be y equals 2x. And then we just need to find this missing piece, what b is. So we're just going to plug in our points into this equation again. So it's going to be 0 equals m is 2, x is 4, plus b. Well, this is 8, so when we subtract 8 from both sides, we get b equals -8, or -8 equals b. There's our equation. Here's our answer over here. Okay, so let's do the, that's parallel. Perpendicular. Two lines are perpendicular if one has the negative reciprocal slope of the other one. So perpendicular. Slopes. So slope is negative reciprocal. So we need to know what reciprocal means first. If I have 3 over 4, you just flip it. The reciprocal would be 4 over 3. Well, we want the negative reciprocal, so there it is, -4 over 3. If we had 5, the reciprocal would be 1 over 5, so just -1 over 5. If we had 3 halves, you flip it, so 2 over 3, and make it negative. Those are negative reciprocals. So an example. So we're just looking at the slope here. The slope is the negative reciprocal. If we had one slope that was 1/2, who could tell me a slope that has of a perpendicular line here, a slope that's perpendicular to this? So that means all that means is line 2 would be flip this over, so it's 2 over 1 and make it negative. So -2 over 1, which is just like -2, -2. All right, so we have 3 lines here. Y equals 5x minus 3. Line 2, x plus 5y equals 2. Line 3, -10y minus 2x equals 0. The question I have for you is, identify which lines are parallel and which lines are perpendicular. Does anybody see a problem with these? Not necessarily this one, but a problem with these two. Okay, they're not in slope-intercept form. What do we need to know about these in order to know if they're parallel or perpendicular? We need to know their slope. So this first one, our slope is 5. We need to know the slopes of these before we can compare them. So we have to get y by itself here. So we're going to subtract x. 5y equals negative x plus 2. We divide by 5. Each term, remember, y equals negative x over 5 is like negative 1 over 5x plus 2 over 5. So our slope for the second one would be m equals negative 1 over 5. So I get purple marker all over me. So to get x or y alone here, we add 2x to both sides. Negative 10y equals 2x. Divide by negative 10. Y equals 2 over negative 10x, which is the same. We simplify it to 1 over 5, so it's like negative 1 over 5x. So our m in this one is negative 1 over 5. Okay, so let's look at these. It's negative 1 over 5. Line 2 and line 3 are parallel because they're both have the same slope. Line 1 and line 2 are perpendicular because it's the negative reciprocal of this. So line 1 and 2 are perpendicular. Line 1 and 3 are perpendicular. Line 2 and 3 are parallel. If we need to spend 2 days on this, we'll spend 2 days on this, okay? Line A, line B. The question says, are these perpendicular? And why? 12y equals negative 7x. So we have to get y alone first. Divide each term by 12. Y equals negative 7 over 12x. But this doesn't even matter with this because remember, we're worried about this. But I'll just leave it. Actually, I'll simplify this a little bit. That's going to be 7 over 2 if I simplify it. But you'd probably change it to 3.5 or 3.5. Don't worry about it. This is what we're looking at. Divide each term by 11. Y equals 16 over 11x minus 52 over 11. Are they perpendicular? No. Look at the slopes. No, because they're not the negative reciprocal of each other. They're not the negative reciprocal of each other. Let's see. Write a parallel line that crosses through the point 2, 2 and is parallel with y equals negative x plus 4. Parallel, so it's going to have the same slope. Well, what is the slope here? Negative 1, because it's negative x, it would be like negative 1. So our equation is going to start with y equals negative x, and then we just need to find out what b equals. So we're going to use y equals mx plus b. Put 2 equals negative 1 times x plus b. 2 equals negative 2 plus b. Add 2 to both sides. b equals 4. So we're going to put plus 4 in there. Here's our equation.